Many of us know someone who's been the victim of elder financial abuse. Today we're talking with two guests about the state of that kind of abuse in Riverside County and ways you could protect yourself. But also, what if you have been victimized? Your money's stolen, your assets taken from you, and there's an actual suspect. There is a financial abuse specialist team that helps, or FAST as they call themselves. This is a partnership between the Riverside County Sheriff's Office and Adult Services, which is part of the County Social Services Department. We're talking today with Veronica Cuevas, she's with the Sheriff's Office, and Michaela Williams with Adult Services. Here's our conversation. So let's talk about it. The Financial Abuse Specialist Team, this started during the COVID pandemic. Talk about why, what was it that prompted the need for this and why at that time?
So the Financial Abuse Specialized Team, it originally had a pilot. COVID came along, it kind of all timed perfectly. We had COVID. If you remember correctly, I remember it very, very clearly. We was all going to go home for a couple of weeks.
And then we were isolated.
Yes. And if you really think about our seniors, they already have a level of isolation anyway, and now they were completely isolated from family, friends, community, and many of them turned to computers, iPads, social media, and really were exposed to a whole other level of isolation.
Did you two see an explosion in elder financial fraud in this window of time?
Absolutely.
I think it came basically from APS first, and that's how then we came about, because there was just a lot. The cases coming in, the talk came in with APS and the Riverside County Sheriff's Office, and that's when the collaboration began.
And so for people who don't understand how this works, you have Adult Protective Services or APS social workers that are embedded, they're literally physically embedded with the deputies in the Riverside County Sheriff's Office.
We do have assigned social workers to those RSO stations.
And then they're with police departments, city police departments too in the county, right?
Correct.
What do you feel like, what was the need to really involve the Sheriff's Office in this?
A lot of the issues that, as we actually spoke and had our first meetings, was the lack of education on our end. I think a lot of the things that we don't get a lot of training in elder abuse in general. So that made us go into a little bit of more talks about, okay, what should we do, especially for first responders who are out there taking these calls for service, to make them aware of what to look for in these cases and not just have it categorized as a civil issue. So this prompted this briefing trainings, and that's what we do now. Make sure that they understand, hey, if you have A, B, and C, this might be a financial crime that needs to be addressed and investigated criminally. So, and that was one of the major things, at least on our end, to start actually educating. And then as we started this, people started realizing, oh yes, our deputies started realizing we need to start these investigations and write these reports. And if they couldn't finish it, then they would send it to the investigators for review. But that was one of the main things that we wanted to make sure that we educated them as well.
Can you talk, Michaela, a little bit about the unique nature of the partnership? Because so FAST is specifically for, we have a victim, but we also have a suspect.
Correct.
And so that's why we're involving law enforcement to investigate. Talk about just the makeup of the team, how unique this is in Riverside County versus other California counties.
So the idea is we've got this financial abuse case. We've identified a suspect, or at least we think if we haven't identified the suspect, we think we can identify that suspect. So we've got a team of specialized social workers that have been trained in financial abuse cases. The setup of their caseload is slightly different to those of a district office social worker. We are able to hold those cases open for longer, which enables us to do a more thorough investigation. We work closer with the banks.
Right.
We've actually gotten very, very good working closely with the banks, obtaining bank statements, making requests for financial information from them. Our social workers are doing a few different things at the same time. We're doing a financial investigation. We're looking at the health and safety of our client. And then we're also looking at different resources and services that we need to put into place for our clients.
The social worker is wearing multiple hats here.
They're wearing multiple hats all at the same time. We're able to actually work alongside the deputies and the investigators at the same time and kind of work the case together with them. We're working in the stations with them, which opens up that line of communication and makes it so much easier. I think it helps expedite the investigation and kind of streamlines everything so much better, because we needed to find a way to expedite, because there's so many of these cases and they're so detailed and they're so lengthy. We needed to find a better way to work those cases and expedite them through the process so much easier, quicker.
What does justice look like for the victims? Is it getting the money back? Can you get the money back when it's stolen from you, or that asset that's stolen from you? Is it prosecution?
It's very unfortunate, because for many of our clients, it's very close family members that have
They're the perpetrator?
They're the perpetrator,
Yeah.
And prosecution, or maybe jail, whatever it might be for that suspect, it's not an outcome for, maybe the grandparent that's been the victim.
Yeah.
It's very sad in some situations.
It's so painful, because that family member is the person that you trusted.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
And we can do restitution. We might have situations where we get restitution, and we've frozen the money, but very often that money doesn't come back once it's gone.
You probably get this question from people. How bad is elder financial abuse in Riverside County?
So I don't have specific data for Riverside County. I can tell you that we have a very, very large population of seniors in Riverside County, and that really comes down to the fact that Riverside County is a lot more affordable to live in than some of our surrounding counties.
The 60 and over population
Yeah,
is
60 and over is significantly high. I can tell you that California, our fraud in California is way higher than that of other states in the US.
Disproportionately higher?
Disproportionately higher, yes. We're very, very high compared to some of the other states.
We're talking about like hundreds of millions of dollars?
Oh, we're talking, yes. And we're talking back in 2024, that was like $12.5 billion lost in the US to fraud and scams.
Right.
They expect that number to continue growing.
So it's getting worse, not better?
It's getting worse. It's getting worse. It was up 25% from the year prior, so it's continuing. So that's why education is so important. Prevention and education.
How do we spot the red flags? And I think part of the challenge in that question of, how do you spot the red flags is you're entrusting as the older adult, in some cases older adults who are in a state of decline, you're entrusting your own family members to help. And you're saying that often family members are the perpetrators. So what do we do in terms of red flags to help prevent this? How do you spot those red flags?
Well, I think that's a whole community thing, because the banks now, they're actually mandated reporters as well. So if they see anything, and a lot of the victims that we have seen, they've been banking with certain banks for years, 30, 40 years. So they have built that relationship as well. So now it just comes to everybody being involved.
If you have a community, you have friends, your family, friends, neighbors, watch out for each other. Watch out for your neighbors and your friends. It's very important. If you suspect something is not quite right, make a cross report to APS.
Okay. That's Adult Protective Services.
Yes.
We're going to offer the the hotline, we'll offer it on the screen here before the podcast is over.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if your gut tells you something's not quite right, make that cross report, make a call, we'll go out, let us take a look. We're trained. That's what we do. We're trained to look.
You ask the right questions and all of that.
We will ask the right questions, we'll find out, and we'll look around. We're trained to do that kind of thing. If we suspect something's wrong, we'll you should be looking for your bank statements. You should be looking for your property deed. You should have regular bills that come in. We're going to look to see if your bills are paid on a regular basis. We're going to look to see if you're behind on your electric, your utilities. We're going to look, where's your bank statement? Have you got withdrawals coming out of your bank account that you have no idea what they are?
Things that are odd with those elements.
Yes, we're going to look for that kind of stuff. But then we also have to take into consideration our seniors that maybe their memory is starting to be impaired. All right? So, keeping track of your bills is sometimes easier said than done.
That's why you have family members. You're asking them to help you out.
Help you out. And again, sometimes we don't have a lot of family members, so sometimes it gets a little bit tricky to navigate. So that's why when we say community, we have to depend on community. So again, if you see something, you feel something's not quite right, make that phone call so we can come in and we can help out and have a look.
Did either one of you want to provide, I guess, any examples of, this team is unique, FAST. You don't really have this in many other counties. Provide any, I guess, kind of case examples, obviously not giving away any privacy information, of where you feel like you've had some good justice, some good outcomes.
So we had a case, 94-year-old client, she was befriended by her gardener. So that's something to look for, right? This is something new, just befriended by this gentleman. He ended up gaining access to her bank accounts. He actually ended up transferring $112,000 from her bank accounts.
Family members have no idea.
Family members have no idea. The bank ended up calling it in to APS. There was another large check that he wrote to himself that actually ended up being stopped. So we ended up getting that money back for the client.
But this is over $100,000
over
later.
$100,000 later. We ended up securing the rest of the funds that were actually still in her bank account. But it was the check that was stopped that was the starting point of him being charged and arrested. But it was that quick. It was very, very quick. But the red flag was this gardener befriending this client.
And did the victim not have family in the area that would look after them and say, hey, why is he so, it seems like this person's really friendly with them? Those red flags we were talking about.
Red flags. She was a 94-year-old lady. She had outlived her husband, her family members. And we see this quite regular. Yeah. We see this quite regular, don't we?
Yeah.
The support system shrinks, right?
It shrinks. Yeah, and our scammers and our fraudsters, they know this.
One of the things you and I have talked about is the shame factor. And I'm hoping that maybe you can, before we wrap up, that you can address that, because I think there's not only the devastation of you've lost a major asset, maybe you've lost your home, maybe you've lost, like you gave in the last example, over 6 figures, but then there's the emotional toll that this takes of, oh my God, how did I not spot it? How does this team help these victims in that regard? Because I would think that is just so massive, that shame factor.
It is huge. I always remember one of the very, very first cases that I ever worked. It was a case out of Paris. It was an elderly man. He had, it was $5,000. I don't remember the details of the case, but it was $5,000. And this poor man was far more worried about what his adult children were going to say to him than he was the fact that he had lost the $5,000. And he was upset. He was ashamed, he was scared, far more worried about what everybody was going to say. And he was worried about them taking away his ability to manage his own money and make his own decisions, and just do what he liked to do with his own money. And so my message would be to everyone, if you have, you know, a senior father or a family member in general that has fallen victim to a scam or a fraudster stealing from them, please, when you speak to them, please do not shame them. Don't be angry with them. This is an opportunity to work with them and set up a plan of action to help them protect their assets and to kind of set them up for success moving forward. You know, work towards maybe filing a police report, maybe, you know, prosecuting the person that stole from them, but set them up for success moving forward. It's tough. You know, as an adult, you've made your own decisions, you've managed your own money. Now all of a sudden you're scared that somebody's going to take all of that away from you and you're no longer going to be able to make your own decisions. So please.
That's so heavy. And I really thank you for giving that example, because I think it's something, you know, we can all do. You talked about, you know, if you suspect something, call the Adult Protective Services hotline. We're going to give that number here very shortly. But also, if you know you have a victim who's, you know, be aware that they're going through those emotions. Yeah. Was there anything you wanted to add to that?
I do actually ask usually our initial deputies are out there and they do that first initial interview. I do ask our investigators, once they do a follow-up interview with the victim, to make sure that they take that time. They take that time to actually listen. Oftentimes, I know on patrol, it's always let's get this going and then off to the next call. And sometimes they may not feel like, oh, okay, well, my crime is not that important as what they're doing out there. So they may not give that deputy all the information right there and then. So it's just very important for that investigator, once they do the follow-up, to just take the time to actually sit with them and go through everything and get that rapport. That's the main thing. Get that rapport, build that rapport with that victim. And then most of the time they'll be getting a lot more information that they even, you know, they didn't know about. So it's a good thing just to build that.
Thank you
relationship.
Both. Yeah. Thank you both so much for, you know, all of your answers, taking the time that you have taken today. Was there anything else maybe you wanted to add that I didn't ask?
I wanted to, as far as community, if they're involved or if they could be involved with their community centers, their senior community centers, there's a lot of times there's training on scams and things to look for. I know we've done a couple of them out in Corona. If there's
members of the public can receive this training.
Yes, and then if they have it, there's Q&A. That way, if they have anything that we have covered, or maybe we haven't covered, we'll go through the most scams that we have seen out there, recent ones, or you know, things that maybe they haven't seen, or the public hasn't seen, but something to be aware of. But yeah, just be educated on it. But it's out there. The help's out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
I appreciate all the work that you are all doing with vulnerable adults.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on the service station.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, review. That helps us make the podcast better, and we'll see you on the next episode.